Theo, thanks for talking to me today, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
So, it's funny. I deleted my Twitter account years ago because I found I wasn't able to say anything on the platform that was counter to the prevailing ideology, and so I deleted it. And then I came back to it during the pandemic because I thought, regardless of the garbage that's flowing through that platform, at least maybe there might be some information as to what's actually going on in the world. And like almost right away, Theo Fleury pops up in my newsfeed, and I was like, "Holy shit, Theo Fleury's got the gloves off, man. He's going for it." So I got to ask you. I mean, what was your motivation for speaking up?
Well, I have a pretty extensive abuse history, and I saw that the the government was abusing its people, and I made a promise to myself many years ago that if I saw abuse, that I was going to call it out, and I was seeing, you know. Um, even before the pandemic, I was seeing a lot of systemic government abuse happening. And then, right at the beginning of the pandemic, I saw that, the government was using manipulation, coercion, lying, stealing, cheating, and, like I said, I was just calling out um, that kind of abuse because, let's face it, I have been in the space of trauma, mental health, and addiction for, oh boy, almost 16 years now. And, I truly believe the core of every single issue we have in society starts with unresolved trauma. And then you pick your poison as to how you're going to deal with that, emotional pain and suffering that's left behind from those traumatic experiences. And, I saw the government firsthand using the pandemic to abuse, the very people that put them in power.
Mm. Yeah, no, I completely agree, man. For me, I'm a student of history, and I saw a lot of the tactics that were used in previous dictatorships being used
Oh
against
yeah,
the public, and that was actually what motivated me to speak up, because we've seen this before. It's happened,
yeah.
and it never leads to a good place, right? And I mean,
Oh God, no.
no,
Well,
and
the communist, Marxist, fascist ideology been tried, many times in history, and the only thing that comes out of that is mass death, right? That's about it. And we're seeing that now, with the wars, with the pandemic, with the vaccine, with turbo cancer, you name it, where history always repeats itself, and that's why they're working so hard to delete history. Is
yeah,
is they don't want people knowing about this shit, and what's gone on. And what I see is, I see the same script from 80 years ago, you know, being rolled out exactly in the same way and same fashion. And a lot of people who refuse to go back into the history books and read and watch stuff. We're seeing the exact same script 80 years later.
yeah, and I mean, you know, um, where we are today, we are, marching toward a widespread censorship of the internet. The attempt to stop these conversations from happening is
Hmm.
is there and very evident. Um, and I actually believe that our saving grace is that our federal governments and the people involved in them don't quite understand how the internet works. And so we're always, 2 or 3 steps ahead of them in terms of technology. So I don't have too many fears there. But we're seeing, I wrote an essay yesterday that I published this morning about, considering a depopulation agenda. And, myself, I'm a very practical sort of guy. I'm not really big on conspiracy theories or anything like that. I've always kind of looked toward things that you can prove.
Well,
But
there's no such thing as a conspiracy theory. That phrase is being used to silence the truthers, right?
mhm,
Or attempt to silence the truthers. And ultimately, what conspiracy theory is it's pattern recognition. And among the people who have the highest IQs on the planet is pattern recognition, right? So uh, them trying to silence, the most critical thinkers in the world is how they do it, right? The CIA came up with the phrase after they assassinated JFK, right?
mhm.
So, you know, here we are. And, you know, basically in the last 4 years, all the conspiracy theorists have become prophets, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at
That's,
Alex Jones, right? I mean,
yeah,
we've reached a point in our reality where everything Alex Jones has predicted has mostly come to be.
yeah,
And now he's reemerging into the public consciousness, less as a screaming voice in the distance, and more as a prophet for where we are now, a guy who
yeah,
saw it a long time ago and somebody who we should be listening to, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
so
and what the bad guys have going for them is, um, people don't believe that this kind of evil exists on the planet. And, from a guy like myself who's seen it firsthand, I was groomed and abused by one of the most notorious pedophiles in Canadian history. So I know evil, right? I know evil, know what it looks like, know what it feels like. I can spot, that kind of evil, and we have 338 of the most evil people ever assembled in the history of Canadian government, carrying out this sick and twisted, insane, agenda.
yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where I was going with the depopulation thing.
Mhm.
I've been mulling it over in my head for a while, just kind of like trying to piece it all together and think about it in a practical way, right? Like, how can I explain this to people in a way that isn't going to make them turn and run, because
Right.
it's like, people hear things like that and they're automatically like, oh, he's crazy,
Mhm.
but I kind of went over the vaccine rollout because to me that was the biggest piece of evidence. We I spoke to Naomi Wolf a couple of months ago actually, and she's assembled a team at her website, Daily Clout, 3,000
Mhm.
doctors, experts, scientists, and
Yep.
they're pouring through the Pfizer trial data, and it's about 450,000 pages.
Yeah.
And this is not a stupid woman, right? She's a Rhodes Scholar. She's a best-selling author. She's, by all means, not the person you would imagine doing that job.
Yeah.
And what they found is that most of the focus in the trial data is on the reproductive system,
Yep.
and that Pfizer knew that these vaccines were going to kill people. They knew that the lipid nanoparticles, when concentrated in, say, the female reproductive system or even the male reproductive system, was degenerating the reproductive
Mhm.
systems, right? And to me, that was like, I almost couldn't believe it when I heard it, and I had to go back and reread the documents again because I've been reading them as they're released, and
Yep.
it's horrifying. Like, they knew, and that was immediately like, yeah, well, if there isn't a depopulation agenda, then what is it then? Then why
Yeah.
would they do this? You
Yeah.
know? So I got to ask you. I mean, dude, you're a legendary athlete. You're. I don't think there's a Canadian who doesn't know your name.
Mhm.
So when you spoke out, did anybody from the league or any other athletes reach out to you like, "Hey, Theo, what is going on?"
No, not necessarily. I think at the beginning of COVID, when I started speaking out, there's obviously a lot of detractors, and they were using my past story, because I ex- basically told everybody I struggle with mental illness and all this stuff, and so they took all that information and they were using it against me, saying I'm crazy and I've lost my mind and all this stuff, and um but people don't remember is I was a villain every night in every opposing building. So I'm used to having detractors or people who talk negatively about me. So I was it was a familiar feeling, right?
Hmm.
But here's the thing: for 27 years, I carried a secret around. Okay, and so I was never my authentic self, right? Because basically, by hiding a secret, I was living a lie. Okay, 2009, I told my story, got rid of the secret, stepped into my authentic self, stepped into my truth, and all of a sudden I was this hero, right? And and so when the pandemic came about, I was speaking truth, and because I was speaking truth, guess what happened? They tried to cancel me,
Hmm.
right? But in the famous words of Kid Rock, I'm uncancelable, right? Because I went after those people as hard as they were coming after me, and I know that these people are cowards of the highest level, right? They use words, and they hide behind their computers. They don't put their real name attached to their profiles. Their pictures are not their authentic pictures, so I know that these people are cowards,
Hmm.
right? And I know that Klaus Schwab is a coward. I know that Bill Gates is a coward. I know that because I played against a lot of these guys, you know, and that's the biggest reason why I had success, is because I could navigate on the ice. I knew who all the cowards were, and I knew who all the competitive guys were, right? And that allowed me to have the success that I had as a hockey player, because I figured out that 80% of the guys that I was playing against, they were bluffers, right?
Hmm.
And it's no different in this game that we're playing now, that the majority, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all these people are cowards. They're cowards because they lurk behind the scenes. They don't actually put themselves out there, and they don't, they use these pawns: Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, George Soros. These people are pawns in their game, and so I know that they're cowards. And when I know people are cowards, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid at all, you know. And I've taken that attitude, throughout this whole pandemic. And you know, come and get me. Come and get me
Yeah.
and find out. Come and get me and find out.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Right?
dude, yeah, no, you're a badass dude. I grew up in Vancouver. Whenever we played the Flames, it wasn't, oh, we're playing the Flames. It's like Theo Fleury is going to punch a couple of our European players in the face tonight for sure. But so I want to get your perspective on the current status of our country, like where we are right now. What are your
Yep.
thoughts?
Well, we're in a spiritual and psychological war, right? Uh, we've never experienced anything like this in our whole entire existence on the planet, and so through my journey, I've become a very highly evolved spiritual being, right? That's why none of this has affected me, is because, at the end of the day, God wins, and you have to trust in the fact that God wins. And so, whatever bullshit they're throwing out there, all I'm doing is I'm working on raising my own personal vibration and getting right with God. Those are the two things that I'm working on. Because when I work on those two things, it doesn't really fucking matter what the other side does. Because at the end of the day, if God doesn't want me on this planet, I'm going to a way better place. I'm moving on to the next, you know, level of my spirituality, right? And I will come back in a different form or whatever. But, that's basically all I'm working on, right? And speaking truth, right? I'm calling out these fucking cowards who are destroying the planet, destroying people physically, emotionally, spiritually, and um, just trying to discern truth.
Yeah.
And when you do that, God takes care of you, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, no, totally. Man, it's incredible you're saying that, because I've gone through my own transition this year. Roughly back early summer, I heard God calling me back, and it. I think I'm preaching to the choir here, but when you hear it, it's like nothing you've heard before. It the moment you hear it, and so I've just recently kind of reestablished myself spiritually again, and it's funny because I was explaining it to somebody as, I'm concerned for the future, but I'm not afraid.
Yeah,
Because whatever happens, I'm on the path God wants me on, and
yeah,
I am where I am supposed to be, and yeah, I'm concerned. I mean, I think we have some very hard times ahead of us. I think we're going to have to endure a
oh
lot,
yeah, oh yeah,
but I think just having that spiritual foundation and that connection is really what is going to, I mean, for people who have it, it's what's going to get us through. It's what's going to pull us through it
yeah,
all, you know?
100%.
Um,
And
so what do
that's,
you,
all the intuitive healers, medicine men, all the people that I'm hanging around with and talking to, that's what they're telling me to do. Raise your vibration and get right with God. So I'm not listening to politicians, right? I'm listening to those people who are, God's disciples and God's warriors. And, that's what they're telling me to do. So that's what I'm going to do. Right. You
Mhm,
know, because at the beginning of COVID, like things were ugly, like my mental illness showed up again, full force. And, I started having suicidal ideations again. And, I was in a really bad place. But, I had enough tools in my toolbox to know that God was trying to tell me something, right? That I wasn't finished, healing all this trauma that I carried around the majority of my life. And so, I really have focused over the last, 3.5 years of, working on this stuff. So I don't have to bring it into the next life. I don't have to bring it into the next dimension. You know what I mean? Or wherever, I end up.
mhm.
Um, you know, I want to be as evolved and as healed as possible, for the next battle. Because, thinking about past lives, or blood memories or whatever, I know that I've always been a warrior. I've been in probably the biggest battles on the planet over and over and over again. You know what I mean? So there's no coincidence that I've become this voice in the freedom movement that you know
Yeah,
speaking
no,
truth,
it,
speaking truth.
yeah, it's funny because like I was shocked the first few things I saw from you, and then I was like, it's Theo Fleury. Like, of course, if anybody's going to be speaking out, it's Theo Fleury. I mean, you've always been a tough dude. You've always been balls to the wall. Don't give a fuck. Let's go. So
Yeah,
it's I think Canada is very fortunate to have your voice, and very fortunate to have you speaking out, because there's so few people who are willing to
right,
put their neck out, especially in this country. Like, on this podcast, I talk to a lot of Americans, and there are a lot of Americans who are kind of mounting a defense against this ideological mind fuck that
Mhm.
everybody's experiencing, this cultural revolution that we're going through.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
but in Canada, it seems like we have such an apathetic perspective. Like it's like we don't want to hear it. We don't want to deal with
Yep.
it. Meanwhile,
Well,
it's happening.
and that's why we've been targeted by the globalists, because they knew, that Canadians are nice, right? And they don't say shit, even if their mouth is full of it, right? And so we were targeted by the World Economic Forum, the UN, the WHO, all these. They knew that we were a compliant nation, and you know we saw that at the beginning of COVID when they brought in all the bullshit, right?
Mhm.
You know, and but I also know that Canadians have fought in many wars too, right? They fought for freedom, and I believe we've got a really long fuse. And when that fuse wears out, which hopefully happens sooner, rather than later, but I have the utmost confidence that when push comes to shove, you know, uh, there will be enough of us who get to the point where we say, you know what, freedom isn't free, and we really have to stand up and fight for this. And there's lots of people out there. I've over the last 4 years, I've run into lots of people. We at Canadians for Truth, our media company, we do live events, and I see lots of people who are fighting for, the same things that we are. It's just unfortunate at this point, it's not en masse, right?
Mhm.
And, but because of the fear thing, right? And, when the planet is vibing at a very high rate of anxiety, the bad guys know this, right? They know this. And so, it's all about fear, right? And people who have had a history of trauma, which is pretty much every single human being that lives on this planet has experienced trauma. But if you haven't gone on any kind of healing journey, the last 4 years is absolutely going to paralyze you, and you are going to be, you're not going to be able to think critically because you're only surviving,
Mhm.
right? And the bad guys knew that. They know psychological warfare, right? And that's why they hate us, people who are on a spiritual journey, who wear the armor of God around them when we're not in our own homes. That's why they're attacking us and whatever. But they also know that we can be affected by this psychological shit show that we're in, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the insane are running the asylum. That's basically it. Pedophiles, cannibalists, these are the, adrenochrome, these are all the people that are running the world, right?
Mhm.
And they do not like us because we, like I said, wear the armor of God and all the angels and, all those things. And we can't be intimidated. We don't live in fear. We live in a different dimension, 3D, getting the 5D, 8D, 12D, that's where we're supposed to go. And um, I was not a guy who meditated, you know. I'm I'm a religious meditator now, and I listen to frequency, I listen to frequency because they say for every ailment there is a frequency,
Mhm.
right? you know uh I ground every day, right? I have a grounding machine at home. I'm grounding so that that all this 5G shit and radiation stuff doesn't affect me. I'm always replenishing what they're taking out of me. And yeah, I'm all about that. I am on a true spiritual, physical and emotional healing journey, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's
and
amazing to hear you say that because, again, meditation was something that I took up over a year ago. I've heard you talk about depression and anxiety and your battles with it. And I went through a really dark depression in my early 20s, and I developed a bad anxiety disorder out of that. I conquered it, of course, with just mental fortitude and
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah.
Exercise was a big one. I've been boxing for most of my life, so that really helped pull me out of it.
Oh
But
yeah. Big time.
but I feel like people like yourself and myself, people, I think where depression stems from personally, obviously, trauma and life experiences, but I also think it's also a hypersensitivity to the world around you and the
Mm,
things that are going on, right?
100%.
And I think, like with yourself, and I know myself personally, when the pandemic began, I recognized what I saw, but my spidey senses were tingling too, and it's that hypersensitivity telling me, hey, this is much worse than what you think it is.
Oh yeah.
This is darker. Start looking into it. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of people like that out there that have that sensation, that feel it. And I
Yeah.
think we're all kind of in this battle together now. And you talked about Canadians, we have a very long fuse, but we saw that fuse run out with the Freedom Convoy. And
Yeah.
what was amazing to me was how people, I wouldn't even say on the left, I would say on the radical left,
Yeah.
maintained that, oh, this was a coup. This, like, you've never seen a fucking coup in your life. Like, you have no
No.
idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that they ate up the bullshit that was fed to them through legacy media, right? And
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
and
it,
they also carry the narcissistic gene too, right? And the narcissistic gene has caused more damage on the planet than probably any kind of disorder, right? Any kind of mental disorder. And but they say prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening to God, right? And thinking about the past is depression, thinking about the future is anxiety, right? So what are we trying to do? We're trying to live as much as we can in the moment, as much as we can. It's kind of a Buddhist mentality, but they're the greatest meditators on the planet, right? So, you know, yeah, and we focus way too much attention on them, right? Which is what the narcissist loves. They love it, whether it's negative or positive attention. They love any kind of attention at all, right? And that's why it's really important when they say stupid shit. Like, you got to laugh right in their face, because that to them is their kryptonite,
Mhm.
right? You know, but we feed into the narcissistic, you know, person. Look at Trudeau. He doesn't care, as long as he's getting attention, whether it's negative or positive, which I can't see him getting a whole lot of positive attention, but he loves the negative attention, you know, and we feed into it and we play into it. We chase him around, and you know, if we just ignored him, he would absolutely implode
Mm.
if we ignored him,
Mhm.
right? Because when you ignore the narcissist, then he starts to become unraveled, right? It's just simple psychology, right? And if you know anything or studied anything about narcissists, you know, that's their biggest fear. That's how they connect. They connect with negativity, right? And if you don't allow the negativity to create their connection, they lose their shit.
Yeah, I heard you one time. It's funny because I heard you once say that you felt bad for him, and it's strange because I felt the same sympathy toward him at
Yeah,
times too.
yeah.
Can
Well,
you go? Yeah.
he's completely compromised, right? You know, and this is how the communists do it, right? They use blackmail, right? That's why Epstein is such a uh, I don't even know what the word is. He is a very significant character in this story,
Mhm.
because he was the guy they used to blackmail. right? Epstein Island is where they did all of this blackmailing, right? Because, and why don't they want the list to come out? They don't want the list to come out because it would take down, the whole entire world government, right? Because they've all been blackmailed in some way, shape, or form. And that's what Trudeau is. He's blackmailed. And he's so deep and so far in that he can't get out. So he has to continue with this, with this story, with this narrative, with all these things that are going on are, that's how the communists do it. That's how they get in power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, they own they own the police, they own the judicial system, they own lawyers, that's how they do it. And that's how cowards do it, because they can't rule on their character. They have to be shady and sneaky and all these things. And it's, if you know anything about psychology, this is it. This is the psychological war, and this is how they do it. This is how they get power.
Yeah.
They don't get power because they're some, incredible prophet, Jesus, that kind of stuff. They're on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're the degenerates on this planet, right?
Yeah.
They
No.
truly are.
Yeah.
They truly are. They sold their souls
Mm-hmm.
to this evil entity, right? And
Yeah.
that's, Trudeau actually thinks that he's going to get, some, big position, at the end of all of this. They're going to dispose of him as soon as, you know, and all these people, like all these, police officers and judges, and, they have no idea that they're being used, right? They
Mm-hmm.
have no idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because
They're useful idiots. They are
yeah.
useful idiots in this, this game that's being played on the planet right now.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, my observation of him, I personally don't think he ever wanted to be prime minister. I don't think he wanted to be in politics.
Nope.
I think he wants to be on a beach somewhere. And he was pushed into it. From what I understand, his brother who passed away was the one who was actually being groomed to enter
Right.
politics. And when his brother died, I believe that he was pushed into politics as a matter of continuing the family legacy. However, it just wasn't in his blood. He just wasn't really that interested in it. And it made him
Right.
perfect. It made him perfect as a puppet, because when you have a guy who's not interested in leading, he's not interested in knowing
Yeah.
policy or understanding his population or really what the needs are, then you can pass them through a young global leaders
Yeah.
program with the World Economic Forum, and they'll
Yeah.
absorb everything because it basically provides their entire agenda for them.
Yeah. Well, and if you look into that family's history, Justin is a very traumatized individual who's never, you know, done any healing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And hurt people, right?
Yeah.
And I see him as a very tortured soul, right? And I have lots of empathy for that, because I used to be one of those people. And I know that kind of pain, that emotional pain, that's left behind from traumatic experiences. So I have a lot of respect for that kind of pain, right? Because I lived in it the majority of my life, right? And now that I'm on the other side and I'm a healer, I have to have empathy for, these kind of people. And, I pray for those people, right? I pray for them to see the light and see, uh, the craziness of their ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's, you can just see it, like you just see it, like you just see it in their eyes. And, you know, like when I watch Trudeau speak, I don't listen to what's coming out of his mouth. I look at his nonverbal communication. And what's coming out of his mouth doesn't match what his body's saying, right? It's almost the opposite, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of shame uh, in him. There's a lot of guilt in him, and you can see it non-verbally how he carries himself, right? He knows that he's doing bad things, but because he's owned, by these characters, he has to play along with the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think personally, I think Krista Freeland was installed to be his handler.
Oh
I think,
yeah, like she's a true blue-blooded Nazi, right? 100%, right? You
yeah.
know, and there's another person who's going through something. You just watch her nonverbal, like she's insane, gone, like gone, right?
Yeah.
She is so uncomfortable in her own skin. She can't even stand still for more than 5 seconds without a twitch, without whatever. I know that feeling too. I know what it's like to be that
Yeah.
uncomfortable in your own skin, right?
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've observed her. And I mean, personally, I think it looks like I've noticed that whenever they tell the big lies is when she's really
Oh yeah.
frenetic, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think that has to do with, knowing how big the lie is, and how damaging it's going to be to people. Because you can't, I mean, unless you're Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy, you can't function as a human being without having some sort of conscience about the things that you're doing. And
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
think,
that's the thing about, I work with pedophiles in the prison system, okay, in Canada. And what they tell me is, don't let me out of this prison. I'm like, well, why not? Well, they go, because even though I know that I'm doing something wrong, the urge is greater than my own common sense. So think about all of these pawns who are playing this game on behalf of all these three-letter agencies, and think about that, right?
mhm.
The urge is greater than my own common sense. So even though I know that I'm doing significant harm, I cannot stop myself from doing that.
How did you get involved in that type of work?
I just set an intention. When I was writing my second book, the lady that I was writing the book with, Kim Barthel, and I basically just said to ourselves, we want to go work in the prison system because they're sort of the forgotten people. And I knew that some way there was trauma connected to behavior. And, I knew that these people who were in prison were just traumatized little kids who became angry, resentful, and then took it out on society, right? And when I go into the prison system, all I see now are hurt little boys. That's I don't see adults, I don't see people who are tattooed, nothing. I see incredibly injured little boys who are incredibly sad, who have never dealt with their trauma that they experienced as kids,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
And these guys, I maybe have 15, 20 layers of trauma in my story. These guys have like 50, 60, 70, 80 layers of trauma in their story. And they've never dealt with it, or nobody's ever explained to them, why they do the things that they do.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Um, I know a guy, well, I don't know a guy, he's a friend. He's a corrections officer, here in Alberta. I moved my family to Alberta during the pandemic because I was in
Smart
BC.
move.
Yeah, well, after the Freedom Convoy and everything that happened, I was like, my whole family's from here. My mom's Plains Cree Indian farm girl from Red Deer. My dad's from Cold Lake. So,
Oh,
I've
nice.
spent half of my life out here. I was born in Edmonton. And
Yeah.
after the Freedom Convoy, my wife and I were just like, we got to get to where the fighters are, because when this hits the fan, which it will, We got to be where the people like us are,
Yeah.
because in BC it was just, there were a lot of people there who were resisting, but it was mostly a lay down and die sort of mentality, right? And
Yeah.
even the people who wanted to fight were like, well, what can I do? And it's like, well, if that's your attitude, then this is just going to be what it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
right? Like
Well,
so
my suggestion moving forward is start meditating and start listening to frequency and start getting your vibration as high as you possibly can. Because when you do that, not only you're helping yourself, but you're helping the planet. Because it doesn't matter where you are, once you carry that high vibration, and there's a great book written about this whole theory. A guy named David Hawkins wrote a book called Power versus Force, and he came up with the map of consciousness. So Google the map of consciousness, and there's certain levels, and there's uh, numbers and frequencies attached to that. And so basically, he did an experiment. He went to the highest crime rate city in the United States, which is, like, I think it's Baltimore, outside of Washington D.C. And what he did is he had people go into that space and meditate every day at noon. And what happened was the crime rate in that particular place went down
mm,
just by meditating, just by raising the vibration and the energy around that place where the highest crime rate was. It lowered the vibration. So if you work on your own personal vibration, wherever you go in society, you're vibing at a very high vibration, which then increases the vibration of whatever space you're in, and people are going to be attracted to you, and they're going to go, some about you, can't put my thing on it, but what is it about you? And then I can have the conversation. I can say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is all I'm doing. I'm meditating and listening to frequency. That's it. Right. And that's getting me on a higher plane. My fear is less. My anxiety is less. My depression is less, because I'm listening to frequency. Right.
yeah, one of my all-time favorite quotes from a guy named Nassim Haramein. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he said, opening the human brain and looking for consciousness is like opening a radio and looking for the instruments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's always stuck with me. And even now, as I've reestablished my relationship with God, I view consciousness as like a flow of energy through our
Yeah.
universe, right? And your brain is like an antenna. You're picking up different signals.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I've been talking to people about this on the podcast lately, about a vibration that's in the air right now that I think a lot of people can feel. Like we're in the Christmas season, and the usual happiness and joy that comes along with this time of year seems to be absent this year. And I think it has to do with there being a vibration in the air that people are picking up on, like something really bad is on the way.
Oh, yeah. And, when you look at the map of consciousness, all the world leaders, all the people that are in power vibe at the very lowest of that consciousness map, which then drags us all down to their level. And so if you're, meditating and listening to frequency, you won't get sucked into that, that sales funnel, which they've created, right? You're
Yeah.
gonna vibe outside of that, and whatever they do it's not gonna bother you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
So while we're on that subject, I mean, we need a change in our country, no matter what. I mean, I don't know how much longer we can go on before that fuse runs out again. And
Right.
I've spoken a lot about this, but my fear is that when that fuse runs out again, it's not going to be in the form of a freedom convoy. It's going to be in something. It's going to be a much more dramatic flare up. And
Mhm.
I'm afraid of that, because I've studied revolutions for a long time. They never end well. They
Mhm.
never go as intended.
Right.
And so Pierre Polyev is making a huge push toward, he's obviously campaigning,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
trying to get an election in the next year or so. What's your view on Pierre Poilievre? How do you feel about him?
He's a part of the establishment.
Mm-hmm.
27-year career politician isn't corrupt. You know, right? He spent his whole career in
Mm-hmm.
politics, right? So anybody who's been in politics the last 80 years, they're corrupt, right? And it doesn't matter what they say, it doesn't matter what they do, they are owned by a bigger entity. That's simple as that, right? So yeah, like I'm a true blue patriot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't need government. I don't want government. Um, yeah, there are certain things that we need, as a society to stay functioning, but we don't need 338 idiots sitting in the House of Commons every day. I would say we need 50 people to run the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Infrastructure, whatever, you know. Um, and part of the reason why we're in this shit show is because of taxation. And taxation is theft, right? It's theft. There's no reason why in the one of the most resource rich countries in the world, where we're having to pay 60% of what we earn to taxes, right? And when people can't afford a healthy diet and lifestyle, what happens? It pushes them right into the medical system, right? And so I would say probably the biggest thing that needs to be done is the whole entire taxation system needs to be revamped, right? Because we don't tax a business until they're profitable. So why are we taxing people that aren't profitable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No,
Because of that, they can't afford a healthy diet and lifestyle, which then pushes them right into the medical system, which is depopulation.
yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
not hard. Like it's not hard to figure out where these insane people are pushing us towards. Um, and yeah, like we need to blow up the whole entire system and start over, right? There
Yeah.
needs to be a new constitution, a new bill of rights and freedoms. Like they're because look at where we're at. We have that, and they just basically, used it as toilet paper, wiped their asses with it, and said basically, we're a full on tyrannical dictatorship, and we're going to do whatever the fuck we want, and there's nothing we can do to stop it.
Mhm.
You can vote for Pierre Poilievre, but he's getting voted into the same system that we're already in, the biggest shit show on the planet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, I'm like I had no idea at the beginning of this what because I didn't vote when I was playing in the NHL. Like, you know what I mean? I had no interest in politics. And the only reason why I got interested in politics is because I had met Trump playing in New York.
Right.
And I saw him come down the escalator. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing running for president of the United States? You know what I mean? And, then I started following because I didn't know if I was a liberal, a libertarian, patriot, conservative. Like I had no idea what the hell I was. And, it wasn't too long that I figured out that I'm just a true blue patriot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love freedom. I don't need people fucking telling me what to do and how to do it or whatever. I'm capable of looking after myself. And, as a citizen of Canada, I have three responsibilities: pay my taxes, vote, and stay out of jail.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really need government involved in my life in any way, shape, or form. It's as simple as that, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You know, when this all when I was big on the Pierre Polyev wagon in the beginning, but now with all the constant sloganeering and as more comes out, you know, I don't, again, I can't verify how if this is a real document or not, but I saw a document where he was a vice chair of a committee that was exploring central bank digital currencies
mhm.
and digital IDs.
Well,
But
Stephen Harper got us into this fucking mess, and he's a conservative. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So there's only one party in Canada, and it's the Uniparty, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it, right?
So,
It, government has never had your best interest at heart, ever, ever, right?
mhm,
It's a tax and spend, philosophy, and the majority of that money has been laundered to the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the 13 families that run this whole crazy operation. It's government is a laundering system to steal money from, the hardworking people of whatever country you live in, right? These people have no moral compass, nothing. It's all about power. And what's the worst addiction to have? The addiction to power. It's not drugs, it's not alcohol, it's not gambling, it's not food, it's not sex. It's the addiction to power. And we're seeing that being played out every single day on the planet.
yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. You know, that actually brings me to my next question because with all of the turmoil in our country right now, obviously we have a prime minister that I don't think anybody genuinely respects him. And, you know, going back to the sympathy that I feel for him actually kind of stems from that. He seems, as you said, like a guy who just really wants to be liked. Like he's a narcissist. He needs to be
Yep.
liked. He appreciates the attention, no matter what
Mm-hmm.
emotion is underlying it. But where my sympathy for him comes from is the fact that he's at this point he's just a punching bag, right? Like
Yep.
he's been um he's been exposed as somebody who really doesn't know what he's talking about, really doesn't have any interest in politics or
Yep.
policy. He's just a figurehead. He's just
Yep.
an empty vessel for an agenda. And now, as a human being, he's just taking a beating, right? I mean, he
Yeah.
can't go anywhere without people screaming at him, telling him to
Yeah.
eat shit, so on and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for somebody who was forced into the position that he's in almost, I do kind of feel sympathetic for him because
Yeah.
I just wish that he would be his own man, say, look, I'm finally taking accountability for everything and I'm stepping away. Like I'm obviously not good for the country. My ideas and the people that are around me haven't been very good
Yeah.
for the country for the last few
But he
years.
can't. He
Right.
can't. He can't. You know, if he truly wanted to be a hero,
Mhm.
he would stand on the podium and say, "Hey, everybody! I just want everybody to know that I'm a part of this big, scheme that's
Mhm.
going on, and I've been blackmailed. I've been, all this shit. Like, I just want to come clean and let you know that this is what's happening."
Mhm.
Right? He could be a true hero, and then that would allow us the opportunity to forgive him for what he has done.
Mhm.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and
You
talk
know what
about
I mean?
healing. I think it's the
Yeah.
only way our country can actually
Yeah.
heal,
Yeah.
right? Is to
And
have
and
that
along with
yeah.
all the other 338 politicians who've gone along with this scheme, it's their opportunity to come clean and, save humanity, right?
Yeah, I just don't think he can because I think he serves this agenda and whoever is behind that, which, we call it the World Economic Forum, but as time goes on, I'm more and more convinced that it's actually
Yeah,
China.
there's a few more levels
Yeah,
above,
above
the
that.
world above the World Economic Forum. Yeah, for sure.
But I
I don't
think
know. I don't know if you watch the what is it, 29, 30 part series called The Fall of the Cabal.
no,
Watch that.
I'll be
It'll
watching.
probably take you 10 or 12 hours to watch it, but at the beginning of COVID, I watched, the first I don't know, 10 episodes, and they trace it all the way back to when the banking system was actually created, and it goes through each decade, and really puts the whole entire puzzle together as to how we ended up in the situation that we ended up in, right?
I'm definitely going to watch that for sure. Cause
Yeah,
I've been
if you
reading,
can find it. I don't know if you can find it, but
there was
it's out
an,
there.
there was another good one. It's a guy, he like filmed it himself on a VHS recorder in the 90s. Think it's called like The Money Printers or The Money Men or something.
Mm,
Anyways, it's like 10 hours long, and he goes through the entire history of the
yeah,
Federal Reserve. And
yeah,
it's fascinating, and central banking in general. Like it also
yeah,
applies to Canada, right? And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, we're totally being manipulated and controlled. And I think, talking about the spiritual aspect of it, I think we're in this like crucial point for humanity where we are having a massive spiritual awakening. I was a guy, I never didn't believe in a creator. I just went through my own stuff
Mhm.
in my life, and I just kind of considered myself agnostic for the longest time. I
Right,
believed in a creator, but I didn't really know what it was.
right.
It wasn't until, this year that I was like, holy shit. Like, it was like, I could, the analogy that I use for God is, it's like a electrical current flowing through Christmas lights, right? Flowing through a
Yeah.
string of Christmas lights. And
Mhm.
a lot of those, when you plug it in at Christmas, a lot of the bulbs don't light up. Well, that's the current's running through, but the bulbs aren't picking up the signal. And that's
Yeah,
most people. But the bulbs that are lit up are the ones that are connected to the current. And, I just connected to that current this
yeah,
year again, you
yeah.
know? And so I want to, I kind of want to backtrack a little bit, because your story is so fascinating and so inspiring, because, you're, like I said, you're a guy who, I mean, I think one of the biggest arguments among hockey fans is why, Theo Fleury needs to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, like immediately, and, like I said, you're a renowned, professional athlete. You're not a guy who played in the league for a few years and disappeared, right? You're, like I said, as a Canucks fan growing up, you were Theo Fleury, right?
Yeah.
So, um, you know, for yourself, I mean, how long you got sober? I think you said in 2009. Is that correct?
2005.
2005. So what's that journey been like for you, having lived on both sides? I mean, do you ever look back on life and go, what a blur?
Hmm. No, no. Yeah, obviously my career, now that it's 20 years ago, right? Seems like a lifetime ago, right?
Yeah.
But um, yeah, what I realized is God always had a plan for my life, and the only time the plan went sideways was when I was running the show, right? And there's many things that happened in my life that you know I look back and I go, if this didn't happen, I probably wouldn't have had the career that I had. But everything just kind of seemed to fall into place, um but I, first and foremost, I was ultra talented, you know high skill level. But when I was a kid, I had enough uh, cognizant realization that if I didn't work hard, that talent meant nothing,
Mhm.
right? And so, from the time I started playing hockey until the time I left home, what was I doing? I was, uh, taking that raw natural ability and talent, and I was practicing every day, you know, practicing every day on the fundamentals, to get to, what Malcolm Gladwell calls the expert level, which is 10,000 hours of practice. So by the time I left home, I was an expert in hockey, right? Because I put in 10,000 hours of practice. And that's what ultimately set me apart from every other Canadian kid who was trying to make it. Was I got to the expert level as quickly as possible, so that when I went to junior hockey, most of the guys I was playing against weren't at that expert level yet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what set me apart, and that's what carried me through all of it was my talent, right? There was a lot of nights that I didn't have my A game, but it was my talent and my ability that carried me through all of those nights when I didn't have it, right?
Yeah. How many times were you told that you would never make it to the NHL?
Oh shit, I don't know, a million times, right?
Yeah.
Maybe more, right? But
Yeah.
I didn't listen to the noise. I didn't listen to the noise because it was a reflection of them. It wasn't a reflection of me. I knew what I was capable of, you know. And that's the thing, when I got to junior and ultimately I got to the NHL level, I just kept getting better, right? I just kept
Mm-hmm.
getting better and better and better and better. And then, when I got to the NHL, I realized that, I was only going to get a certain amount of ice time being an offensive player. So I learned how to penalty kill. I learned how to play in the last minute of periods. I learned how to, and that's how I got more ice time. Was I
Yeah.
became an all-rounded player, you know? And yeah, I could have got 150 points a year, but at the end of the day, that's not what wins championships. What wins championships is being an all-rounded hockey player, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Oh yeah.
like the Scotty Bowman, Steve Yzerman story, right? So the Red Wings hired Scotty Bowman. Stevie Yzerman was getting 150 points a year. So Scotty and Stevie met before the season. Scotty Bowman said to him, he goes, I want you to get 80 points a year, and I want you to be our best defensive player on our team. And Stevie goes, okay, I'll do that. And Stevie Y won 3 Stanley Cups because he changed, right? We're seeing it in Edmonton, you know, until Draisaitl and McDavid decide that they're going to play defense, that team's never going to win a championship,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? You
Yeah,
know?
no, yeah, it's so crazy, man, because these are the same things. I mentor a lot of young boxers, and these are the same things that I tell them, but applied through boxing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works.
Fundamentals.
It works for every
Yeah, you
every
have
aspect, every aspect of life, right?
yeah, everybody wants to punch their way out of a problem, and defense is what's going to get you out of that problem. I always tell them the exact same thing. Like,
Yeah,
you can sit there and bite down on your mouthpiece and swing, but you got a 50-50 chance of getting knocked out,
yeah,
right? But if you back off, relax, be comfortable, just move, be
yeah,
defensive, then that shot, that the winning
yeah,
shot will come,
yeah.
right? You just got to
Well,
be patient.
Floyd Mayweather is a billionaire because he was probably one of the best defensive boxers in the whole entire history of the sport
That's
because he
right.
never got hit. He
That's right.
never got hit.
That's right. Yeah. No, he was impossible to beat because he was impossible to break, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, oh man. So just to cap it off, because I've taken an hour of your time. I know you got important things to do. Can we talk about the Olympic experience, man? Because you were part
yeah,
of you were part of a legendary, Canada, when we show up at the Winter Olympics, basically it's like, don't even play. Canada's here. Like we're coming, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
but can you talk about your Olympic experience? Because you were part of a very special team with a lot of legendary guys.
yeah. Well, I think the first time we went to the Olympics, we didn't really know what to expect, right? And ultimately, we lost in the semifinals to, you know, uh, an individual skills competition, right? Because in the NHL in the playoffs, it's called sudden death overtime, right? Because you play to the death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Olympics, we got into a shootout. We didn't lose a game the whole entire Olympics. We get, you know, and what was interesting was we scored the Czechs scored the first goal in that semifinal game, and then they never came into our zone the rest of the game, right? And so they were playing for that 1-0 win, but we just kept coming and coming in waves and waves, and Trevor Linden whipped one in at the end of the game, and we went to the shootout. So You might as well put a fucking Scrabble board at center ice and had Patrick Waugh and Dominic Hasek fucking play Scrabble for the win, because,
Right.
a shootout has absolutely nothing to do with a team sport, right?
Right.
It's an individual skills competition, which absolutely has nothing to do with hockey. Like, that's soccer bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
And so when we went into the Olympics in 2002, we knew what to expect. And we had the greatest player in the history of our game running the team,
Right.
which was Wayne Gretzky, right? And, I played on the fourth line with Brendan Shanahan and Joe Newendike.
Right.
3,000 points, 1,500 goals, and we were the fourth line.
Right. Right. Right.
Right. So it just goes to show you, what kind of talent, we had on that team. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, we lost the first game of the tournament. But then after that, it was, we just sort of got into this mode where we just knew we were going to win. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we knew that the first three games meant nothing of the tournament. It was about seeding, basically.
Right.
The first three games were about seeding. And so, we took that time to get to know one another and hang out with each other. And, and then once the medal round came, nobody was beating us.
Right.
Nobody was beating us.
What's it like to play for Wayne Gretzky?
Well, he demands so much respect that, you just don't want to let a guy like that down. Right.
Yeah.
And, we had the second greatest player on the planet as our captain, Mario Lemieux.
Yeah.
Right. And then we had guys like Sakic and Yzerman and, those kind of guys that, just, quality human beings. Like, they're great hockey players, but, they're even better human beings. Right. Joe Newendike, another incredible human being, Brendan Shanahan, Lindros, Korea. Like, it was like just.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, that, but as kids, we're playing road hockey. We're dreaming about playing in Game 7 of Stanley Cups. We're not dreaming about playing the gold medal game at the Olympics because it wasn't a reality then, and, but, as an athlete, that's it. Like, it doesn't get any bigger than that.
Right.
The Olympics. And, that final game that we played against the Americans, 80 million people watched that game worldwide.
Yeah.
80 million people.
Yeah.
Right. And, as an athlete, that's where you want to be. Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's those 10,000 hours I put in as a kid. That was the reason why I did that. Right.
Yeah, man.
Was to to have those opportunities to win. Right. And behind me, look at behind me. Right. There's my championship rings. Over here, there's my Olympic gold medal, my Stanley Cup. Right. That's why we play the game. Right. That's why you choose a career in professional hockey is, when you sign an NHL contract, they're paying you to win. They're not paying you to lose. They're paying you to win. Right. And, fortunately for me, I had a lot of success and I had a lot of opportunities to win. And, that's, to me, is my greatest accomplishment in sports, is I have 6 different championship rings.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I think, I told you before we started this, but you're a testament to will and heart. I remember being a young kid, and every time a fucking game would come on that you were playing in, Theo Fleury's too small. He's too small to be playing here, and then you'd come out and you dominate. Right. And guys were fucking terrified to get near you because you weren't afraid to get busy either.
Yeah.
And, it's so awesome to talk to you and to just know that you're a voice, against all of this ugliness in the world, because, you're such a strong guy, such a strong personality. And, your motivational speaking, I watched your TED talk in preparation for this. And, I watched a few of your other interviews too, but I really want to encourage people out there. Like, if you're struggling with mental health or mental illness or any real or any struggles, really watch that TED talk, because you had a lot of really important things to say. And I guess we'll cap this off. I just want to talk about your motivational speaking a little bit, because
Hmm.
you've a lot of people who suffer through a lot of the things that you've been through in your life. They internalize those things, and I think, mate, you did for a long time, right? I mean,
Oh, 100%.
that's where the
Yep.
addiction problems came from.
Yep.
But you've turned that around, and now you're using your story to help millions of other people.
Hmm.
So I guess with your motivational speaking and your fire and ice talks, as well,
Yeah.
those are amazing as well. You recently talked to Dr. Peter McCullough, right?
Yeah. We had 1,500 people in Red Deer for
Wow.
a live studio audience. It was incredible. It
Right.
really was. And for me, what I took out of it was everything that I uh, was talking about is truth, right?
Hmm.
That the vaccines are dangerous, lockdowns were dangerous, mask wearing was dangerous, all these things that they were trying to tell us that, was saving us was actually hurting us. That's
Hmm.
what I got out of, that interview that Jamie and I did with Dr. McCullough,
Hmm.
and um and this is what I've sort of realized is, like, we're very aware that we have a mental health pandemic on the planet, and we also have an addictions pandemic at the same time, sort of, going parallel. But nobody talks about the catalyst, which brings us into those two spaces, and that's trauma. What happened to you, right? What happened to you? Nobody ever asks that question,
Hmm.
right? And that's trauma. And so that trauma leaves us in emotional pain and suffering. And what is emotional pain and suffering? Mental illness. And we can't see it because you can't see it. You can't see emotional pain and you can't see emotional suffering. So now we're left with this pain. So how are we going to deal with this? Well, we're going to tend to gravitate towards the dark side of life and get involved in addictive behavior as a coping mechanism to suppress the emotional pain and scars that are left behind, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But then we come to that ultimate place. Am I going to live or am I going to die? And that brings us to our knees. And that's when we seek out God, right?
Hmm.
Is when we're in that, that proverbial rock bottom, when every single person is gone out of our lives because we've made them all sick because of our behavior and what we've been doing and how many people we've hurt. We're only left with the one entity that's going to save us, and that's God. And then we hit our knees and we surrender and we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand it.
Hmm.
And that's the only thing that's going to save us, right?
I never thought in a million years that Theo Fleury, the baddest motherfucker that was ever in the NHL, I'd be having this conversation about God with.
Yeah.
But it is it is so true, man. Like I
Yeah.
said, I'm just getting my footing and reestablishing my spiritual relationship right now.
And
But
what do you think the lesson has been over the last 4 years? What is God trying to tell us?
oh,
Come to me. Come to
yeah,
me. Come
oh
to me.
yeah, that was
Come
that
to me.
that was it. Like
Right?
yeah, it's kind of strange because I'm a writer by trade, right? That's what I do. And I've been writing for 23 years, and I've had a solid following for a long time, but nothing around April, May, June of this year. It went from, like, 5,000 people reading my stuff to over 1 million people. you shared a few of my essays, and so it's it like at that same time I heard that calling in my head saying, hey, this is where you need to be, and you need to be with me. This
Yeah.
is, that's God telling me you need to be here with me,
Yep.
and I'm going to push you through this. It's like there's a passage in the Bible, let the dead bury the dead. And that was basically the way I felt, is I'm leaving the world of the dead and I'm going to the world
Yeah.
of the living. Right.
Yeah.
And, I feel like, I'm 40
Well, you got to
years.
go to the light. You got to go to the light.
That's
Right.
right. That's
You
right.
know, that's what we're being told.
Yeah.
Right. Go to
Oh,
the light. Go to the
absolutely.
light. Right.
Yeah.
Why is Bill Gates trying to block out the sun? It's like, it's not hard to figure out, man. Like it's
Yeah.
it's not rocket science.
You know,
It's not rocket science.
yeah.
We've been told for how long the sun is dangerous for us. No, no, it is like bleach.
Yeah.
It is cleansing. It cleanses the body, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that's my message to people now: is get right with God, whatever that is, whatever God is to you, right? Get right with that
Mm-hmm.
first. Get right
Mm-hmm.
with that first, right? Surrender, turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him. Pray, meditate, listen to frequency, get your vibration up as high as you possibly can. Because when you do that, all this evil shit doesn't affect you at all.
That's right.
It doesn't affect you at all, because you're living at a higher level, right? Higher
Absolutely.
level. And
Absolutely.
don't let people suck you back into that low vibration, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's
And by having these kind of conversations, that's how you raise people's vibration, because you get them thinking differently. You go, you know, because you can look at my story. Fuck, I had a gun in my mouth fucking 19 years ago, gonna blow my fucking brains out.
yeah.
Why? Because I couldn't live life on life's terms. I didn't have any tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when I chose to live and then I surrendered, God showed me all the tools I needed to get
Yeah.
rid of this emotional pain and scars that were left behind from these traumatic experiences. And, he gave me all of this adversity at the beginning of my life for what? So that I would build resilience. And once you have resilience, there isn't anything you can't get through once you have resilience,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why God gives us these traumatic experiences in our life, is to build resilient people. And what the bad guys are doing, and they don't even realize it, is they're giving us all this adversity. And so what are they doing? They're building resilience in us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's counterproductive of what they really want to accomplish, is they're building a whole resilient group of people on the planet. And once you have resilience, we can't be defeated. Cannot be defeated once we have resilience.
Yeah, that's
And if you
exactly.
don't have resilience after the last 4 years, then you're probably not meant to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly why I think we're going to win,
Yeah. Well,
and
God wins. Ultimately, God wins. The Bible predicted this. Here it is. We're in it. The last battle is right here, right now. Good versus evil, and good always wins, right?
yeah. And for people listening, one of I'd say probably the most well-known verse in the Bible is John 3:16, but I encourage you to skip past that and go to John 3:19 through 21, because it's exactly what Theo was just talking about. The evil forces being afraid of the light, right? And God being the light. And when you're in the light, yeah, man, man, I'm so glad I had this conversation with you, because you just reinforced a lot of the things that I've been thinking in my mind. And it's difficult, right? Because I'm 40 years old, I'm halfway done my life, and I feel like I'm just starting to live. Like I feel like I'm just learning to live.
Yeah. Well, and once this is all said and done, you're going to be able to live as long as you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Once
Yeah.
all this evil is been eliminated and we're actually living heaven on earth, where you're going to be able to live as long as you want, because there'll
Yeah.
be no more disease. There'll be all those cures that have been hidden for, centuries are all going to come online, right? And you're going to be able to live as long as you want,
Mm,
right?
yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, you know, um, there's a reason why you're fighting as hard as you can right now, is because eternal life. Holy cow! Like, that's, to me, that's pretty incredible,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the hope piece, right? Like, nobody's really selling hope. Like, you know what I mean? You know, but there is hope, right? Just,
Yeah.
give yourself to God, follow his path for you, find your purpose in this life. And if you do that, then it's a life well lived. It's a life well spent, right?
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
totally, man.
right?
Totally. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely. So before we go, do you have any events, any Fire and Ice events, talks coming up or anything anytime soon?
yeah, January 13th in Calgary here, we got Chris Sky in live studio audience, which should be an interesting couple of hours chatting with him. But yeah, just like, if you would like me to come speak at an event, just go to theofleury.life right here, theofleury.life, and get a hold of my wife, and we'll come and see you. Right.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
I'm on all social media platforms. And I always tell every podcast I'm on, if you're struggling and you don't have anybody to talk to, I said, private message me, and I guarantee I will get back to you within the half hour. So
That's amazing. And yeah, trust me, everybody listening, Theo tweets the way he plays hockey. No holds barred. He's coming
yeah,
straight for you. Theo, hang around for a second after we're done recording. We'll say our goodbyes privately, but
yeah,
everybody, I really encourage you to go to Theo's website. I just, in preparation for this discussion, I went and I watched most of the videos on your website, and man, there's so much to take from it. Theo Fleury is a guy who's lived 5 lifetimes, and he's been beaten up, he's been knocked down, and he kept getting up and kept fighting. And it's I've been through some difficult times, even recently, and it's very inspirational. If you're struggling, if you're looking for answers, or even if you're just looking to listen to something other than people complaining, I highly recommend you go to Theo's site and watch his videos. Awesome. Thanks, Theo.
thanks, brother.